once you show yourself like that, you can't go back to being this rigid, PC host. Like, people saw you loose. And so his apology was so stiff, which is how he always was before.
Yeah.
That he couldn't apologize in that way. Nobody believes you anymore. It doesn't make any sense. We've seen who you really are.
Hey everybody, it's John Lovett and welcome back to Love It or Leave It presents Bravo America. I'm sitting down with some of my favorite personalities from reality TV because you cannot understand politics in this moment if you don't understand the dynamics of reality television. Take a listen to how Congresswoman Sarah McBride put it on Pod Save America earlier this year.
Some of my colleagues are treating me the way they are treating me for a couple of reasons. One, it's because they want attention, right? They want to employ the strategies of a Bravo TV show to get attention in a body of 435 people, and the way to do that is to pick a fight with someone and throw wine in their face.
Today, I'm joined by Lindsay, reality television icon, the first Black Bachelorette. I loved talking to Rachel. She walks us through her journey from being someone who didn't even know much about The Bachelor to not only being a contestant on the show, but becoming The Bachelorette. She also unpacks the saga with Chris Harrison and the TV interview that led to his ouster from the show. She is a magnetic and captivating person. Sitting across from her, you understand why the producers of The Bachelor recognized that they were dealing with a star and wanted her to be part of their universe. She was also so thoughtful and insightful about her experience being the first Black Bachelorette in a franchise that had been notorious for having people of color not go very far. And she talked about how The Bachelor, for all her misgivings about it, changed her life and ultimately led to the success she's had, including Higher Learning, a podcast she hosts with Van Lathan, and Morally Corrupt, a show on all things Bravo, which you should absolutely check out. I love this conversation. I think you will too. So here's Lindsay. Rachel, so it's 2017. Donald Trump has just become president.
Yeah.
And you are announced as the first Black Bachelorette in the history of the show, a casting decision that sets in motion a series of events that leads to basically a racial reckoning that changes reality television. And you were just looking to date? Like, what was your...
No, I knew it was more than that. Not that I thought it was going to be a racial reckoning, because to be honest, I didn't watch The Bachelor before I was on it. I actually think that's what saved me, because I wasn't, not like any of them looked like me before, but I wasn't trying to be like anyone. I was just like, it's myself. I'm just going to be myself. So to go back, I was in Finland on The Bachelor when Trump was elected. So it was very unreal. Like, I was like, this is not really happening, like, even the people, I remember, like, the Finnish people were laughing at us. They were like, no, that can't be your president. It was this whole thing. So to then leave that world and go back into the real world, and before I left Finland, they said, we want you to be the Bachelorette, and I said no. And I went back to work as an attorney. I just wanted my normal life back. And it was someone coming up to me saying, I hear you go far. My daughter looks like you. She loves the show. She'll see herself represented. And I thought, oh my God, I have to. It's bigger than me. I still didn't think I would find love. I didn't think of any. It didn't hit me.
So you're a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
You're a charismatic, charming, smart.
Thanks.
Beautiful person. I can say that. It's just a say.
Oh, please keep going.
People in your life must have been like, you're a lawyer. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why? Like, what did you think of The Bachelor before you went on The Bachelor?
That it wasn't for Black people. And I actually said that in my interview, and they loved it. Like, anything I was giving them, I was trying to not be on the show. Anything I would give them, they were like, yes. Have you talked to your job yet? Yes. And in my personal life, I was looking for no's. I was like, my dad's a federal judge. I was like, my dad's going to be like, no, absolutely not. Nobody in my inner circle watched the show. It just wasn't for us. And my dad was kind of like, I mean, yeah, maybe you go into entertainment law after this. People were so positive. The stars aligned completely. Even my boss had just gotten into The Bachelor, and he said, well, do they need me to talk? Do they need me on the show? Everybody, it was like they were possessed. Everybody was like, this is for you. You have to do it.
See, that's shocking to me.
Swear.
Because I decided to go on Survivor, and a lot of people in my life said, like, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. You're going to make a fool of yourself. And there was some merit to what they were saying. But like, this isn't just a reality competition show. This is a show that is ostensibly about the most important choice any of us can make in our lives, which is who we want to share our lives with. But going on The Bachelor is, I think, even different than becoming the Bachelorette. But like when you go on to The Bachelor, a show you didn't really know a lot about, you knew that they didn't have, that is like well known, that like black people just don't go far on this show. Like, were you genuinely open to finding love? Was that a side quest in it? Like, what was your mentality around it?
I needed an escape from my regular life. I had come off of a bad breakup, somebody I thought I was going to marry. And I was like, in my career, I was like, I'm at that place where it's like, do you become partner? Do you not? Law wasn't satisfying me and fulfilling me in the way that I thought it would. It never fully felt natural to me. I knew I wouldn't be a lawyer forever, but I hit a wall. And it was kind of like, what's next? And then 2 of my coworkers walk in and they're like, hey, you should be on The Bachelor. And I'm like, why would I do that? And they're like, Rachel, I know you don't think it's for you, but if you do it, you will go far. Looks like they could see something in me. I'm telling you, everybody was possessed.
What a swing that is! Hey, we think you should take up painting, move to Austin. Like, there's a lot of ways people kind of make changes in their life that don't involve going to Finland to be on a competition show in which you're put. So you're put in this. So you're like, the other part of this too is, and I felt this as somebody that's been on a reality show, which is, I love Survivor and I was excited about the adventure, but my identity wasn't wrapped up in what was about to happen to me. Like, I wasn't looking to build a career of being on reality television, but all of a sudden you're in this house and there's a lot of people for whom this is like the most exciting and important challenge of their life, like this defining moment. Like, how did you feel separate from others in that way?
I thought I would. So going in, I was also the oldest person. I was 31 when I went on The Bachelor, which is crazy to think about. So I was technically the first black and oldest Bachelorette. Just at 31. Just crazy to think about.
Ancient, for sure.
But exactly, ancient. But I thought that I wouldn't really be able to connect with the women because I don't mean this to sound like cocky or I'm above it, but I just was kind of like, from what I know and the way the producers were acting, they don't typically get people like me that come on the show. Not because they don't try out, because their parents are against it, their friends, their work, they can't take off. Like, my job paid me while I was still on there. It's just, it's unreal. Wow. It really is. And so as the moment I got there the first day, I was in a sorority, so it was like riding a bike. I just hopped right in. I was impressed with the women. There were women that were entrepreneurs, that were nurses, no other lawyers, but that had their own. It wasn't quite what I thought, and I was beautifully surprised. So I was one of the girls. I mean, I still have great friends from the show. I was with them this last weekend at BravoCon.
And the house is surprising. So you're in that house.
I hate that house.
And it's not very nice. What's the situation? What's it like in there?
It's disgusting.
Okay.
It's cold. There's no warmth to it. It's old. I know they just renovated it. Apparently, I actually had an allergic reaction by the time it was over. Like, my eyes were swollen the last day. I was like, get me out of this place. I couldn't sleep there. I don't know. I hated it. There's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. You have the entire upstairs. There's 7, 6, and 6 people in a room. Bunk beds, you're all on top of each other. So it's fun because, you're with the girls and all of that, but it's at the same time, it's just a lot. It's exhausting. Like, you can't find your peace. They're constantly pulling you for interviews. I'm waking up taking shots of Fireball in the morning. I started my day off every morning with a couple shots of Fireball.
Talk to me about the drinking.
Oh, it's rampant.
You're drinking.
It's a way to survive. At least it was for me. They changed the rule after I left, though,
because there's too much drinking.
There was an issue on Paradise where, like, a girl got really drunk, and it turns out she mixed medication with it, and it just became this whole thing that they had to actually stop production, do an investigation, start over. Those people were removed from the show, and now it's 2 drinks every hour. But I mean, think about it.
That's a lot of drinks too.
Yeah, and you can wait till the end of the hour. So think about it. You have 2 drinks the last 10 minutes, and then you just pick right back up at the top of the hour. There's ways to get around it. But when I was there was no limit. There were producers who were like, hey, you want to go take a shot and talk?
Wow.
But I get annoyed when there are the people who are like, they were feeding me drinks. We're all adults. Like, I was fully aware that I wanted to wake up in the morning and have a drink. It just was, for me, it was like a cup of coffee.
Right.
I
No,
did
for
that
sure.
too.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, I suppose. But
Yeah.
so you're with this group of women that are in this strange competition. A lot of people are tipsy a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah.
Is the food situation as bad as they say? Is the fridge empty? What's happening?
No, they stock the fridge. So they tell you to make this master grocery list. Everybody says what they want. I was a little shocked that we had to make it ourselves. Now, I know this sounds bougie, but I was like, we're living in this mansion. You're giving us all these things, because they give you like little gifts in here and there, and there's no chef. So, but it is a great bonding experience with the women. Now, I don't cook. I entertain.
Right,
so
for
I
sure.
provided the entertainment for the women while they were cooking. But it was like a sorority house. It was a lot of fun.
So you're moving through this season. You are going far. Mm-hmm. You're doing very well. Mm-hmm. At what point did it become clear that there was a possibility you might become the next Bachelorette?
I was very naive in the process. Despite whatever educational background I come from, I was very naive. I got the first rose the first night. And rather than taking it and saying, oh my gosh, he chose me, I was walking around to producers saying, like, throwing that rose around. Like, mind you, it's like a trophy. It's coveted. People, so immediately there's a target on my back. They're like, oh, that girl's going to go far. And I'm flinging this rose around like, which one of you producers told this man to give me the rose? Because I was so skeptical of the process. I was like, which one of you told me to do this? I didn't really drink the first night. Now, that changed when I moved into the mansion.
Right.
But I just didn't trust the process. So that it didn't become real to me at that point. But the women on the show who were fans of the show, they would say to me all the time, you're going to be the next Bachelorette. That girl's going to win, and you're going to be the next Bachelorette. And I would get a little annoyed because I was like, well, I want to just be open. Not that I thought, oh my gosh, I found my husband, but what if I did? So I just wanted to be open for the entire process, and I didn't want people to think that I had an ulterior motive of I came on this show to be the Bachelorette. So I didn't like that talk. But the girls said it to me all the time.
I'm so like, I struggle with the love-based reality shows.
I get
really
it.
do.
You should.
I now love. I love my Real Housewives. I love Survivor. I love competition. But whenever I'm watching something like a Love Island or The Bachelor or Love Is Blind, it feels like playing with something like beautiful and pure in a way that's even some of the most cynical shows don't. And when you say that you're open to love, like,
Yeah.
this is not an environment in which one, like, what could that mean in this context? Like, you're open to love, but you're being plied with alcohol in this competition in which you're always being filmed. Like, I like, is that even possible?
It is until you step into this world. They call it the Bachelor bubble. And it is, and we would always say, this is like the craziest social experiment. We would say this on the show. I mean, you're watching girls come home on dates. They come back and you're like, oh my gosh, how was it? You're trying to live vicariously through them. What did he kiss like? What did he say to you? I'm telling you, even I was very caught up into that. I knew what I signed up for. But I will say on The Bachelor, I knew he was never going to pick me. I just knew, women know. I knew the girl that was going to win from the beginning. We all did, and she won. We could see it. Men, at least the Bachelors, okay, I'll try not to generalize here. It was very obvious who he was into, who he would look at, who he would pull next to him on a group date, who we saw sneak off and go behind a wall or something. It's like, okay, he's super into her. I knew we were good friends. I knew he liked being around me. I knew we enjoyed each other's company. I liked him, but I never really saw that he was my husband. So that took a little bit of the pressure off. I would cry harder when the women would go home, my friends, to the point where they pulled me to the side and they were like, you gotta stop. You've got to stop. He was even like, why are you crying so hard? I'm like, I love them. Like, that's the real love story that they don't talk about.
But these are strangers. You've been with them for a few days.
It's
What's going on?
so
What's happening to
here's
you?
the world. Here's the bubble.
You're losing yourself in
you
The Bachelor.
You do lose yourself. And you know why? No phone, no TV. You can have books, but it's not encouraged to read all the time. Like you don't have
Books
magazines.
are not encouraged.
No, not
Bad
the
television.
Bible.
The Bible. Do they have Bibles?
Somebody wrote a Bible on my season. I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
who. When you go to the airport, you can't read any of the magazines on the stands. Like you are kept in this world. These are your only friends. This is the only man. The producers are like gods. Like truly, that's how it feels. They're your parents. They're godlike, and when you take all the outside influences away, this is what I mean about the experiment. It's crazy how that can mentally impact you. And I came in so skeptical. So when I was developing real friendships, because I'm talking to the women more than I'm talking to anyone else, I was shocked at how close I became with some of these women. And I know it's real because 9 years later, I'm still really good friends with these women. I've baby showers, weddings, breakups, marriages, Bachelorette parties. I've done it all. So there's a realness to it. It's the side that you don't see. But what you were saying just about like the love, I was open for whatever. I didn't go in saying I'm going to fall in love and I'm going to find my husband. I was like, it could happen. I'm just down for whatever.
But is that that's the right thing to?
That was me.
It's the right thing to want. Like I get that's exactly what you should want, like to believe.
Yeah.
But is it convincing yourself? Right, because it's hard to do this and have that not be the case.
It was easy for me because of the history of people who look like me on the show. That's why when I got the first impression rose, I said, has a black woman ever gotten this rose before? And they were like, no, never. So it was kind of like, I remember going back to my hotel room thinking, is this real? Is it not? Or are they manipulating the situation? And then the girls would say, oh, they want you to be the Bachelorette. So I thought, oh, are they doing this because they want me to go far to be the Bachelorette? I was very skeptical. It wasn't until, even when I got my first one-on-one, it was when I went home to my parents. And then you step out of the bubble and you're in the real world. And I was kind of looking for somebody to pull me to the side, like, we don't like this guy, or Rachel, what are you doing? And they were kind of playing along. And I was like kind of like looking for them for a lifeline in some sort of, and then I remember leaving hometowns and I'm like, well, maybe he does really like me. Maybe it is real. Maybe I'll know after the fantasy suites. But as I said, I love fan of Fireball. They really wanted me to say, I love you. I said it. I laugh after. Like we start laughing. They cut it out. Like I say it. And I'm kind of like, I cared for him. I really did. We're actually friends to this day.
You didn't love him.
But I wasn't in love. I wasn't in love at all. And I said it and I kind of laughed. And then I passed out in the fantasy suite because I had drank so much that day. And Trump had just been elected. And I was
and you
trying.
Knew that.
And I knew it. And I was trying to talk. Oh, once you're
this is like the darkest. This is getting it's so dark to me. Okay. I'm listening. I'm learning. Okay.
So when you're the top four, you're not in the mansion. Well, you're not on the road. So you're separated. It's just you and a producer. They let you watch TV. So I watched the World Series. I think that was the David Ross, was it the Cubs? I'm not even a big baseball fan. And I watched that. It was in New York. It was like a big deal. The day Trump got elected, I was watching the BBC. I'm in Finland. I stayed up all night because there was only 3 hours of daylight. I stayed up and I watched it and I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to win this. He won. So the next day I had a one-on-one. It was my fantasy suite date. And I was like, guys, Trump won. Are we going to talk about this? And they were like, don't talk about that on camera. Wow. And I was like, but I have to talk to somebody. So instead I talked to the bottle.
I drank. You passed out in the fantasy suite.
So I never had sex.
So, okay. Thank you for saying that. But
I'll talk about that.
But like, to me, like, as somebody who's not like a Bachelor person,
mm-hmm.
I remember like it can't possibly be true that they have something called the fantasy suite on this television show aired by Mickey Mouse. Like,
yeah.
Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse are like, let's get that Bachelor on the show. It's the week where they go to the fantasy suite. What is so everybody who's on the show knows that this leads to the fantasy suites.
Yes.
What is the conversation amongst the girls like about it? Are you nervous about it? Are you ignoring it? Like, it feels so contrived, and like every once in a while I'll have this moment where I'll be like, I can't believe these conservatives are protesting outside of drag brunch when the fantasy suite exists. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's a fair point. That makes a lot of sense. So I've used it as a tactic to like fuck with people. So the girl who won, we're so cool now. But at the show, she was very serious. She was like, he is my person, to the point where she alienated women because she was really focused. To her credit, like she really came on there to find love. Where we kept fucking around. Like they were like, guys, he's here on the group date. Like stop hanging out with each other. So when we were talking about the fantasy suite, I was like, oh, yeah, he doesn't want to see me in the fantasy suite. I was like, if I get in the fantasy suite, it's over for all of y'all. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I would say. And they would just start.
That's cool.
Like,
I like trash talk.
the girls would laugh, like, who knew me, but she would be so nervous. So we had no problem talking about it. Only 3 of you are going to make it there. So it's not real until you get to, the 6. When you start thinking about that kind of stuff. Also, it's by the time you get to the fantasy suites, it's probably been like 8 weeks and you've been making out, you've been constantly talking about how you love this person. Some people, like you like this person, you could see something, like you're all you're doing is talking about this one person. He's your whole world. So like by the time you get to that week, like you're kind of horny.
Wow.
And so they set you up for it. So I passed out. So nothing happened for me. All that talk.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
But others don't pass out.
No, I was the Bachelorette. I definitely didn't pass out then.
Wow.
I definitely didn't pass out then.
It's so funny. It's like I become basically just sort of like, I don't know, some kind of a nun. I'm like Sister John Lovett now, being like, and then you go in there and you have sex.
Knowing that other people possibly can. So here's how they set it up. It's a week. You have a Monday, you have a date. And then you may or may not give someone the key. It's like this ancient looking key that's like from, from a fairy tale. And you hand them the key, and you don't have to give everybody the fantasy suite. So you give them the key, and then you've already have your bag packed just in case you get that key. And then they'll take you into the room, and they'll usually show you like kissing on the bed, and they show you closing the door. That's what my parents would call it. They're like, you're not going to go to the closed door, are you? And I was like, it's the fantasy suite, and I'm grown. But my parents are very religious. And so, yeah, they closed the door.
As well.
The judge, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
look at that. He never came on the show, by the way. He found some kind of loophole. He's like, I'm not allowed to be on the show. It's not true. So you close the door, and then they're like, cut. And then they come in. It's so not romantic. And they take down the lights, and they take everything down, and then they really leave you alone. And your producer is maybe, if it's depending on a house or hotel, a couple of doors down, or maybe downstairs or whatever. And then it's just you and this person. There's usually like a bowl of condoms, and it's just the 2 of you. And you can decide to do what you want to do. You can talk. You can have conversations. Usually it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, you gotta have to say something.
Yeah, you would hope so, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have sex with everybody that I took to the fantasy suite, but I did take all 3 to the fantasy suite. But I had legitimate questions. I had concerns that my parents had. I had concerns that I had. I had like written down all these things. I was asking like your credit score, your political affiliation. By that time, when I was on The Bachelorette, I really liked the men that I had brought there. And so I was very serious and intentional in the questions I asked. And then it was over. I was like, well, let's go.
Let's go. This podcast is supported by the Obama Foundation. The Obama Foundation is helping to lift up emerging leaders with the tools, training, and support they need to meet this moment in history. At a time when democracy feels under pressure, the Obama Foundation is investing in the next generation of leaders. These young changemakers are stepping up in communities around the world, turning ideas into action and challenges into solutions. The Obama Foundation believes that leadership is not about one person. It's about building movements, fostering collaboration, and creating lasting impact. Through programs, mentorship, and community engagement, the foundation equips young leaders with the skills and tools they need to tackle today's toughest challenges, from civic engagement to education, social justice, and climate action. Hope isn't passive, it's hard work, and the Obama Foundation is giving emerging leaders the resources they need to turn hope into meaningful change, because when we empower people to lead, we unlock the future, and you can help. Donate today by visiting obama.org/youth. That's obama.org/youth. Love It or Leave It is brought to you by Masa. Have you ever taken a look at the nutrition label on a typical bag of chips? You'll find a chemical cocktail, artificial dyes, vague natural flavors, and ingredients that sound more like a science experiment than a snack. Masa is part of the growing movement to bring back real food, the kind our grandparents ate before snacks were made in labs. Masa's chips contain just 3 ingredients: organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. That's it. No mystery chemicals, just real food. These chips don't only avoid all the bad stuff, they taste incredible too. Snacking on masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips with masa. You feel satisfied, light, and energetic with no crash, bloat, or gross, sluggish feeling afterwards. And because these chips are made with real food, they're more satiating, so you won't find yourself uncontrollably binging and still feeling hungry afterwards. If you love masa, then you'll love Vandy Crisps. Vandy, Masa's sister company, makes the most delicious 3-ingredient potato chips. My favorite flavor is just the original. I like original chips.
Who doesn't?
Ready to give Masa or Vandy a try? Use code LOVEIT for 25% off your first order at masachips.com or vandycrisps.com, or simply click the link in the video description or scan the QR code to claim this delicious offer. Don't feel like ordering online? Masa and Vandy are now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. We've had them around the office. They're really great. Highly recommend them. You know, I didn't know that I was only supposed to have chips made with beef tallow, but I don't want to go back. Stop by and pick up a couple of bags before they're gone. There's a moment in Vanderpump Rules where Tom Sandoval's desperate to have a conversation off camera, and they're like, no, because they know that we have to get the best moments on camera. Is this the first time you're able to speak to these guys without cameras?
The only time they usually let you sneak away is if you really like someone. And this is what I will give them credit. After every week, they say, who are your top 4? And they don't mess with them. So they really allow you to explore the people you really think you have a future with. And so they might give you extra time. They might give you alone time where it's not really talking. It's more like making out, but like you get to spend time with each other away from everyone else if they're on a group date or something like that. But it is the first time because you don't ride in cars together. You might have a couple of those moments, but they're rare. Like something has to happen. Like for me, I think this sounds so unrealistic. We were in Switzerland and we got caught in a storm on a top of a glacier and we couldn't helicopter back down. So we had to drive. It was like this crazy situation. So we were able to be in the car without any cameras. Wow. So rare. But the fantasy suite, it really is that moment. You can talk about any and everything. Nobody's around.
Is it different? Is the conversation different? Are you finally, does your guard come down? Are you checking? Like it's almost like now the cameras aren't here. Let's actually make sure any of this is real. Like, what's it like?
Yeah, on The Bachelor, that never happened. Like, I never even made it to the bedroom. I passed out, and he was like, I carried you up the stairs and gave you Tylenol and put you in the bed. That's what happened. On The Bachelorette, there was a guy who was on my season was very unsure. He was like, I don't know about getting engaged. And I'm like, why the fuck are you here? Like, that is the thing. Now it's more normal on The Bachelor where people are boyfriend and girlfriend and walk away. But I kind of felt like he was playing with me because it was like, why now? You got to a certain point and it felt like, oh, I got as far as I needed to go. Now I can leave.
Is that Peter?
Peter, yeah. Something was unsettling to me. And he was like my top 2. But the fantasy suite for us was really emotional when the camp, because it was emotional going in. I was just like, I remember I turned to producer and I was like, I'd just rather send him home. I don't really want to get the fantasy suite. It just feels off to me. And
because you really cared about him and you thought he was going to leave. You thought he wasn't as invested in the show or you.
Yeah, I felt like he reminded me of my ex. It was like he couldn't commit. And it was like, by this point, know who you are and know what you want. I'm dealing with Bryan, who I obviously ended up picking, who was so matter of fact. And I'm like, why can't you do that? Either say I don't want you or say I do. And I understand it's an engagement and that's a real thing. But the way I was looking at it is we're not getting married. Even Bryan and I, it took us 2.5 years to get married. Not because we were planning a wedding, because we were getting to know each other in real life. It's almost like you start over and you start dating again. That did not work out well. But I was trying to convince Peter of that very same thing because what I wanted was both of them to come at the end and be committed, not one being wishy-washy, so then I could fully make my decision.
But see, that's the control a show wants you to have that in life doesn't exist, right? Because what if Peter's timeline just didn't fit with the timeline of the show?
Then why are you here?
Well, but that's a question for the show, but for you, like, what if Peter is the right person? But because the timeline is wrong, you're not in sync. In real life, there's no deadline.
Right.
There might be hard conversations that are like, I need to know, like, it's a classic conversation. where is this going?
Yeah.
Right? I'm ready, you're not. I need to know. Right? Like you have that back
Of
and forth and
course.
you negotiate.
It's so
something.
logical.
But in the show, it's not like that.
Right. That's why I kept saying to myself, and I said it in the finale and I got a lot of shit for it. I was like, because why are you trying to be the Bachelor then? Because he so fucking was. So
that's what you think. That was.
But I know he was, and he's come out and said it. Like I knew that they wanted him to be it, and something happened behind the scenes where it didn't happen. It didn't come to fruition, and they picked Ari. But if the timeline doesn't work for you, then why are you going to be the Bachelor? Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. So you felt like it wasn't just you thought there was something slightly like something short of dishonest.
I think we caught each other by surprise. He was my first date. We were both very skeptical. We had a great first date. There was a lot of you too. And in the real world, I don't ever think we would have gone on a date or chosen each other. And so we fell in love with the process after our first date because it was like, wow, this could really be something. And then it was forever before we had another date. And he got really insecure, and in his head he started questioning things, which makes sense. I've been on that side of things, so I understand it. But for me, it was like, why, if you don't, it doesn't work for you, that is so fair and it makes sense. Why come this far? Because even in the end, when I brought this up and I was just like, you just don't know what you want, he was like, fine, then I'll do it. I'll get engaged. And it's like, well, that's not what I want.
Who wants to pull someone towards you like that?
Yeah.
But so when you say caught each other by surprise, that in his mind he had how this was supposed to go, which was get as far as he can and then be the Bachelor?
No, I just think he maybe came in with the same mindset as me that I did on Nick's season. I'm just open to whatever can happen, but I don't really think it's going to happen. And we clicked so well. We had a really great first date. It was probably one of my favorite dates on the show, and my dog was a part of it. That I think that we both were like, it could happen. It takes you out of your mind, like the skepticism kind of goes away because you're like, I really connected, and that was genuine for me.
That's so interesting because what you're describing is that whatever the artifice of the show is, like two people meeting is very, very powerful and can overwhelm those kinds of things, including like the what's supposed to happen. Was there any part of you after it ended that? I'll tell you, my fiance, who I met on Love Is Blind, no, didn't. But I
was like, didn't catch that season.
First of all, they want to meet you, but they're also like, what happened with Peter? You must get that all the time. What happened with Peter? What happened with Peter? After the show, was it ever a possibility they say, look, I got engaged to Bryan on the show, but some part of me thinks it was always meant to be Peter?
I never thought it was meant to be Peter towards the end because the indecisiveness became so unattractive to me. But I do wonder, well, I'll say this. Our breakup was brutal. And the reason I think our first date was so good, and because we were both so skeptical, is there wasn't love bombing. Like the whole show was meant for love bombing. We'll just put that out there. But our date wasn't him telling me how great and amazing I was. It was us talking about therapy. It was us bonding over just real life things that I was shocked that they kept on the show because normally they take that kind of stuff out. Where I was like, oh, we're having real conversations. We're not just horny and, like super attracted to each other. It felt a little deeper. It felt more real. But when he left, that was probably like a 3-hour conversation. And the producers just keep going, because the emotion was raw and it was real. And for me, I wanted to pour it all out there because I knew I was breaking up with him. I walked in there knowing, because that was the one thing that I put my foot down with, was that I did not want two people to propose to me. So I remember the producers were like, if you don't do it tonight, they're both going to come to whether they propose or not, they're both going to meet you at the podium, whatever it is. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that day to be clouded by that, which in hindsight, it's like, but it was because of what happened the night before. And so I didn't expect him to fight for it in the way that he did. So it threw me off. And I always compare it to an ex, and people don't believe me, but the relationship that I was in before, he always gave me just enough to have enough hope to hang on. And I was not expecting Peter to do that. I wasn't expecting to see his emotion. I was like, oh, wait, maybe he really does care. I thought this was going to be super easy. It was not, and it was hard, and I questioned it even because of his emotion and his response to me. I questioned it. It was so hard. That next day, the day of the proposal, I was crying. I didn't sleep. My eyes were bloodshot red going to the proposal, and I was like, "This is what I was trying to avoid," and it's happening anyway, because I was so concerned about him. Is he okay? Is he mad at me? You know, what's gonna happen? I knew Bryan was the right choice, but I couldn't get past. I don't think I've ever said this out loud.
Oh, that's exciting.
I couldn't. It took me weeks after the proposal to stop thinking about him and if he was okay. It wasn't that I was thinking about him like I want to be with him, but he was so emotional, and I was, when we left each other, that I kept thinking, how is he? Can you tell me how he's doing? Is he okay? Like, I felt, because I really, really cared for him. I really, really did. And that's something I didn't anticipate either, that there were going to be two men at the end that I really, really cared about.
Well, part of this is what you're describing is breaking up with somebody on a Wednesday and getting engaged to a different person on a Thursday, which is, absent cameras, not how we do business.
Right.
Like, of course you were still stuck on somebody. Like, in the real world, when you break up with somebody, you're weird for a while.
Yeah.
You were a post-breakup, and in the early, you must have been weird.
And I was lying to myself.
Yeah, you think you were lying to yourself.
No, I was lying to myself in that I was like, I'm going to break up. It's going to be fine. I'm going to be okay because I have made the decision with Bryan. And I still believe that was the right decision to choose Bryan. But I underestimated how hard it would be to say goodbye to Peter. And then I would keep thinking about his well-being for a few weeks after. I really did. And then you got to watch it. Then you have to rewatch the whole thing again, and you have to defend to your partner things that you said or make out scenes in a hot tub. And we would get the episodes before. It's like,
you're watching this with Bryan.
Yeah, it's all the odds are against you to not survive. It truly is not about them seeing the success of your relationship, because it takes a strong man or woman to sit there and watch you profess feelings or make out or, like, I can't remember everything I said or everything I did during the season. And so, like, you try to prepare them as much as you can. Then their family members are calling them. Why did they say this? Why did they do this? Does she? And I had to fight that a lot. And the audience did not like Bryan. So they loved Peter. And I told Peter that. I go, America's going to be obsessed with you. I told him that in the fantasy suites. He was like, what do you mean? I go, believe me, they're going to be obsessed with you. Because of the way you look and the way you act. They're going to expect you to act a certain way based on the way you look, and you don't. It's very Midwestern. And so they hated Bryan. And so I'm defending Bryan everywhere I go. And so it was a lot. It is shocking.
First of all,
we made it through.
I see why you were so clearly going to be the Bachelorette, because I'm so drawn into the story you're telling. And I believe every single thing you're saying, and you're so charismatic. And then I step back and think, I'm sorry, you got engaged to somebody on television.
I did. Can I say what plays into that too? And this is, now we're getting into the divorce of it.
Yeah, let's go. Well, right, because it's also like, well, it didn't work.
It didn't work. And there were lies that I told to myself throughout it. And I think I don't care who you are, there's a societal pressure on women. And even being 32, I'm from the South and I come from a religious family. So I went to school with people at 32 who were already on their third marriage, like 4 kids. It's just a way of life in the South. So there is a pressure, I believe, as women that we put on ourselves that at this age, if I had a life plan, I wrote about it in my first book. By 32, I was already supposed to be on my second kid. I really thought that's what would happen for me. And it didn't. And I don't regret any decision that I made before. It's just that by that age, I was tired of people looking at me like, oh, she's successful in so many ways, but she just can't get successful at love. And I think I had that pressure on me as well of I don't want to walk out of this show without an engagement. I could have found a boyfriend in real life,
Yeah.
And so it just kind of got to me too of did I waste my time going through this process? I got to come out of here with something. It wasn't even a ring. It was commitment. I didn't have commitment in the relationship that I had before that was for 5 years. So if I go through this and I put myself out in such a public way, I at least want to have commitment. I want to be on a path with someone who wants the same things that I want. We're not going to get married tomorrow. Again, it took us 2.5 years, but he wants kids. We have the same values. He wants to be married. That's what I was looking for more than the person who was like, I don't really know. I don't really know.
Yeah.
And so that was part of the reason I wanted to see the whole process through too. And I realized that about myself as I was going through it. At first it was, and it still was, about being the first and showing that you don't have to look a certain way to find love. But then also as I was becoming attracted and really developing feelings for the men, it was like, I don't want to walk out of here once again, the woman who can't be loved, who can't find love. Like on my exit in The Bachelor, I'm crying and I'm like, once again, I'm never good enough. So I had a lot of that in me. It's why I stayed in my marriage longer than I should have. Even getting married, there were things that I saw, the reasons we broke up, I saw all those things before. But I wanted to have kids and I wanted to be married and I wanted to be loved. And It's like sad. It's kind of sad and I know a lot of women who put their careers first and then they look up one day and there are other things that they want for themselves and they don't have them. And they kind of settle or they make sacrifices and they compromise in ways that they wouldn't normally do that because of their desire to have some of those other things.
I also do think that sometimes after a long, like in any relationship, even the best relationship, there are problems. And if that relationship were to end, you'd look back and say, oh, I saw those problems all along. But like I always think too that like you had to become the person that wanted to end it, which you were when it began. Like I think it's like you have to be generous with yourself. Also, whenever I'm just like talking to you and I feel so bad that you have to date straight men because it's like where's the commitment? Like that is wild to me.
Yeah.
Just that they're not seeing it, that's wild to me. That's just the plight of being, I think, a woman from my understanding.
Yeah, I always say that men like the idea of me and not the reality. It's like they're so impressed by what I do or, how I talk or whatever it may be. But then when you have to be with me in real life and see that the work ethic that goes behind that or the time commitment it takes, it's like, well, wait a second, I don't like all of that. And that's been a struggle for me. It was a struggle in my marriage.
Well, let's talk about becoming the Bachelorette, because you talked about the balance between you just wanting the experience and also being the first Black woman in this role. You also said something earlier about how when you first got there, you're really skeptical of the producers. You're waving the rose around, who did this, and then you get more comfortable. But it seems like you then become more skeptical again. And I just talk about where you ended up and how you saw the ways in which the producers shaped the show and how much you felt like you could or couldn't trust them.
I clocked immediately the most manipulative producer who's no longer with the show. Like he would, like if the girls were all like chilling in their hotel room, he'd come in and he'd like sit on the bed or maybe like crawl in the bed and not in like a freaky kind of way, but it was like, I know what you're doing. I said to him on The Bachelor, I was like, I'm a lawyer from one manipulator to another. I fully see what you do. And he laughed. I got it. So I'm still shocked that they wanted me to be the Bachelorette after all of that. But I felt like we were allowed to be ourselves on The Bachelor. I kind of played the game in some ways. I knew when I was being asked a question that was because they wanted a particular answer. I knew when they wanted me to say, I love you. Actually, I was pulled to the side that was like, we need you to be honest with your feelings. We need you to, and I was like, what, you need me to say I love you? Like that was told to me. So the skepticism kind of came back when I was out of the mansion. I was out of hotels with the women and I was assigned a producer. And based on the producer, I had one producer and then they assigned me another. And I'm like, oh, they're working me. They're working me. And I could feel it. They wanted me to kind of open up. They wanted to see me get more emotional. To him, I was with the women. They wanted that for me. And so I think the skepticism came back with that. Even when I went home, I gave a note to one of the girls because I knew I was going home that rose ceremony. I was like, I'm going home. I'm not going to see you. And I went home. Like I just knew what was happening then. As the Bachelorette, you're on a different side of things. So when you're the Bachelor, you have or a contestant, you have totally different producers. You're in the house. It's a totally different situation. When you're the Bachelorette, you have one producer. You're with the EPs. Like, this is the team you travel with. Like, the stage manager, the host. Like, it's a totally different set of things. So you're kind of part of the strategy.
It feels more like your show.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you need to keep this person. Why? I don't want to keep this person. We really need them to be on the 2-on-1.
So they are helping you make these decisions about who to keep and who to go. They're involved.
Except the top 4. That's why every week it's a reset. Who is now in your top 4? All right, we're not going to touch them. Might have even been 5. We're not going to touch those people. But then everyone else was fair game. And I remember there was a guy I wanted to take on a date, and they were like, oh, we think this storyline's great, because there was a black guy who had never dated black women. And I was trying to tell them that this is triggering, and I know this storyline is traumatic. And they were like, yeah, but we've never had this story. And I'm like, you've never had these stories before because I'm black. You've never had a black lead. All these stories are going to be new. I ended up having to take that guy anyway. It was so obvious he wasn't into me that they wanted me to keep him, and I got to send him home because they said there is no way that they could edit it to make it look like he liked me. And it was obvious on the 1-on-1. So everybody else was just kind of like, we need to keep this person for this. We need to do this for them. This person needs a hometown. I did get that with one of them. I was going to keep him anyway, but I learned that he had a very interesting family that I didn't know about before. And it was kind of like, yeah, we're glad you kept him because we want you to take him to a hometown. There was a guy that I liked, and they were like, is he the guy you're going to pick at the end? And I was like, no, but he's definitely my top 5. And they were like, send him home. You're not going to pick him anyway. You might as well let him go now.
Wow, because they're just looking at more than you can see, and they don't think he's good TV for some reason.
Yeah, it was better to send him home. Like, he was fan favorite, kind of like good looking. And it was like, yeah, but there are other guys I'd rather send him home. It's like, nope, send him home. You're not going to pick him anyway. Which, yeah, that's fair. But I kind of want to surround myself with the guys I'm actually attracted to, care about, at least have a friendship about. But the top 4, no. So that's how I saw the manipulation. I was more in on it. It made me understand Nick better when he was the Bachelor, because now I see the other side of it as the Bachelorette.
You've also talked about what it was like finding out that they had put somebody in the house that had a bunch of like insanely racist tweets.
Oh, yeah.
And at one point you were like, oh, I hope they didn't know. But now you think they did.
I think they knew. And it's crazy because I don't know if I've ever said it like this before, but I could not tell he was that person. Even when I took him on the 2-on-1, so there was Kenny the wrestler, and then there was, what was it? I'm not even trying to be funny. I can't even remember. Lee. I was like, I can't even remember his name.
Lee Garrett, right?
Kenny was upsetting to me because he was older. I liked that he had a child, actually. But he, as an older guy, I was mad that he was getting caught up in the mess. Like, be above that. And that, to me, was a character flaw. And I would tell him that. I actually really liked Kenny. But I'm like, you keep getting in the shits. Like, move past it. Focus on me. And then Lee played more of like the religious, quiet, I'm being ganged up on. And I really couldn't tell that he was as bad as he was in real time. And I will credit a producer that said to me, no, he's not a good person. Because they could see that I was in my mind, I was like, well, they're saying this, but that's not how he is with me. And they're like, nah, he's not a good person. So when I came out and I saw that, I'm like, oh, they knew. You knew. Because you could tell me in real time, the way he's presenting himself is not who he really is. So I think that it was a good storyline for them to find someone from an area that had not been around black people, definitely hadn't dated a black person, and would be triggered in a house full of diversity.
Right, because also the Bachelors that were more diverse than any previous cast, right? And so he's having these bad interactions with Kenny and others, right, that they're also using to play up the drama.
Yeah, and he was antagonizing them, and he just, he was just like riling everybody up in the house. He was very, like, used microaggressions like crazy. Like, he's like just like never been around people of color is what it felt like. But I wasn't privy to all of that. One day I heard them screaming, and I was in another room, and I go, can I go in there and say some shit to everybody? And they were like, no, you can't. And I know that they didn't let me do that because, you know, there's certain stereotypes as a black woman. Like, I was going to go in there and rip it up. And I saw in later seasons that they allowed other bachelorettes to have their moment like that, but they wouldn't let me do that. They let me do it with DeMario because he brought his girlfriend and it was just so obvious, but they wouldn't let me go in the room and just tell everybody a piece of my mind.
And you think that was because they were worried about the stereotype? They
I
were
do.
worried about it for you, for the show? Like what?
Both. For me and the show. Because even when I was on The Bachelor and I got into it with the girl, Vanessa, who he picked, we had a sit down. I didn't even yell or scream, but she accused me of being a bully. And I was like, where? Give me examples. She couldn't give me any. And I was like, yeah, because you're full of shit. And then they were like, we're not going to air any of that. Because they knew that they wanted me to be the Bachelorette. I didn't at the time. And they knew she was going to win. And it just didn't look good for the show. And it didn't look good for their first Black Bachelorette.
That's so, because it's, in the one hand, they're trying to protect you from a stereotype. But on the other hand, they're afraid what the stereotype will apply in the audience's mind. Like it's because
if I wasn't the Bachelorette, they wouldn't have protected me.
Okay, because they saw you as someone that was going to be part of their brand, and they didn't want you. They're worried about the stereotype.
Yeah. I had to be perfect on paper in the way I presented myself. I got really drunk on one day because I got dehydrated, and it was like a track and field date. And they came and talked to me after, and they were like, do you have a drinking problem? And I was like, no. And then thank God my producer who was with me was like, she had 2 drinks today. They've just been in the house. It's her first day out. You had us doing all these track and field events in the heat. She's exhausted. She's tired. She had a drink and it just like made me like super woozy. But I realized they were saying that to me now because they wanted to know if I did, because they wanted me to be the Bachelorette. But at the time, I didn't see it that way.
Love It or Leave It is brought to you by Planned Parenthood Federation of America. This year, we've seen our rights attacked, the truth stretched, and access to essential health care threatened in a blow to our already abysmal healthcare system. The Trump administration and Congress have defunded Planned Parenthood, jeopardizing care for 1.1 million patients across the country. But Planned Parenthood isn't backing down. They're still fighting to provide non-judgmental care like birth control, cancer screening, abortion, and more to millions of people, and your support can make the difference. Planned Parenthood relies on the generosity of individuals, people like you, to power their work. Whatever you give can protect care and make sure Planned Parenthood health centers have the resources to meet the needs of patients now and into the future. Show up for patients, show up for rights, show up for the values you believe in. Visit PlannedParenthood.org/defend and make a gift today. That's PlannedParenthood.org/defend. Love It or Leave It is brought to you by IndaCloud. IndaCloud is your online cannabis dispensary for quieting the noise. Gummies, curated flower, pre-rolls, and now 0 sugar, 0 calorie THC sodas, all federally legal THC, DEA certified, lab tested, shipped discreet in boxes labeled pornography.
Yeah, you can say you don't want anyone knowing. You don't want anyone knowing that you're partaking in some IndaCloud.
You know, I'm feeling the burnout. You know, I need the break. I'm excited for the break we're about to have. And I do find that, like, if I feel like I, want to change my vibe, change the energy.
Unwind a little bit.
I'll take a little bit of an edible just to have a different, mentality. They have these grape soda THC gummies. They're great for calm and relaxation. You take a small bite of one of these gummies and it's all you need to ease into a peaceful calm at the end of the day because they're 20 milligrams, the whole gummy. So that's a lot for me. I just take a little bit. I'm a little lightweight. This holiday season, policy debates, family debates, internal debates, all handled by one bipartisan solution. Weed. IndaCloud. Gummies, sodas, pre-roll for the moments democracy wears you out. And $70 ounces, that's what we call economic relief. This is how adults log off mindfully and maybe with a little fizz. John needs to go offline.
I sure do.
If you're 21 or older, visit indacloud.co and use code LOVEIT for 25% off and free shipping. That's indacloud.co, INDA cloud.co. Code LOVEIT. 25% off, free shipping, and one less headline in your head. Enjoy responsibly, and thanks to IndaCloud for sponsoring today's much-needed quiet. And so, your season of The Bachelorette ends, and then there's this controversy over Lee. You're now anchoring at Extra and talking to Chris Harrison, who is now dealing with the fallout from a Bachelorette having done
Antebellum party.
An antebellum party, and that conversation leads to Chris Harrison withdrawing, kind of taking a break from the show, which then becomes permanent.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are mad at you
Yes.
because you were the one who just asked him the questions.
Right.
And we were talking about this when we were thinking about this conversation, and we all had this realization, which is, does he lose his job today in the same exact, does the same thing happen today as happens there? I don't know the answer. I'm not sure.
Not have.
Yeah.
I don't think, the way that snowballed into something so much bigger, no, he would have sat out maybe. Maybe he wouldn't have hosted the finale episode, and he would have been able to come back. I think he thought that for himself.
Yeah.
If it had not happened in February of 2021, that's when cancel culture was like heightened. It also is who he had the conversation with. He wasn't, being me, he wasn't even supposed to be the person I interviewed that day. I was going to interview a contestant. That contestant, or a former person on the show, that person pulled out because I think they didn't want to be asked a question. He was, the guy who I was going to talk to was Tyler Cameron, who was the best friend of Matt James, who was the Bachelor. He pulled out, I think, because he knew I would ask a question. I'm known for asking direct questions, relevant questions. And Chris was there to promote, nobody even knows, some drink maybe. So it was a perfect storm. ABC PR wasn't on the call. Warner PR wasn't on the call. It was the PR of that drink company.
That's
so there was no one to stop him and say, you're going the wrong way. It was 15 minutes of him ranting and raving, which I have always known how Chris is. He doesn't even like me. He's never liked me. And but
how could anyone not like you?
Thank you. He played the game because he has to as the host, but I would always hear rumblings like, Chris doesn't like you, because I didn't suck up to him in maybe a way that another contestant would. I was just like, cool, friendly with him. And so I think he just thought, I don't know, he was just showing his true self, but I was sitting back like, I know this to be you. The audience doesn't. I'm just shocked that you have the audacity to be saying this. And then when he finished, we're a 30-minute show, 20 minutes with commercials. I go to my EP and I said, did you see that? She said, no. I said, only air whatever he said about his promotion. I said, put the whole thing on YouTube, unedited. And then that's what happened. And then the next day, it blew up, and I sent it to an executive at ABC, and he was like, yeah, I already saw it. It's the first thing. This is the first thing on my desk this morning.
That actually is so surprising to me, because I just thought this was damage control gone wrong. But this was truly, so he was in some ways mad that you were putting this to him. He did not think he was going to be asked questions about that. How could he not?
I think he thought he was smarter than me. I think he thought that he was having a very intelligent he called me after that before it went on YouTube. He called me after and he's like, I thought that was a great conversation. Swear to God. And I go, yeah. I go, I don't really agree with what you had to say, but okay. He, like, in his mind, like, it just shows what an ego he had. It's so wild to just think about 24 hours from the time he did it to the time it came out. He didn't apologize to me till ABC had a talk with him, or somebody had a talk with him, because he texted me or called me that morning and was like, well, they're saying I'm gaslighting you. He still didn't get it until somebody said something, and then he apologized. And then when I tried to explain to him why it was offensive, it was like dismissive, like, okay, yeah, well, I'm gonna go. Like, there wasn't any truly taking ownership of it. And that's obvious from when he did apologize on Good Morning America. And, Strahan's my guy. So he had my back in that moment. And that was kind of like the end. Because once you show yourself like that, you can't go back to being this rigid, PC host. Like, people saw you loose. And so his apology was so stiff, which is how he always was before.
Yeah.
That he couldn't apologize in that way. Nobody believes you anymore. It doesn't make any sense. We've seen who you really are.
It's so interesting because for whatever he actually thought in the moment, you think like a self-preservation instinct would kick in. Like, because, I remember when he went off the Bachelor, people would say, Chris Harrison is to The Bachelor and The Bachelorette what like Jeff Probst is to Survivor. It's like,
yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
But he does.
Right. But he did. He did.
He did. He
That's what
really
it is.
did. I mean, he was doing damage control after it was that. So it just all snowballed. Like, once it happened, you had a statement from the women on Matt James's season that was airing at the time that were like, we stand by Rachel. And I kind of was like, they were making it a Rachel versus Chris situation. Then the men followed suit. We're like, oh, well, we got to do what the women did. The men put out a statement. It was wild.
Did you feel like people needed to stand with you? Did you need standing?
No,
You just interviewed the guy.
I interviewed the guy. I was like, okay, he's put it out here. He's shown who he is. I mean, he literally yells at one point, who are you? Who the hell is Rachel Lindsay? And he catches himself. And he goes, who the hell is Chris Harrison? And then what made it worse was me saying, well, who would I dress up as if I go to the party? Because he was like, we all had these parties, you know? And he was like, yeah, I hear you. And it's like, no, no, that's not the correct response. So then when it snowballed into that, after the statement from the men and the women, that's when the show decided that they would suspend him and he wouldn't host the finale. So now, then it shifts into conservative right-wing media of this girl trapped him and asked these questions that made him answer in a certain way, and she canceled him. She got him canceled. It became the story as if I didn't. I think I talked to Don Lemon, and then I did something on Good Morning America of just like how it felt in the moment. But I was very quiet about it. And of course, Extra was going to take advantage of it. And so Billy Bush was like, well, we got to do a sit down and talk about it. Like, I got to be a part of this conversation that happened. It happened on our show, and he wasn't there, you know, to privy to it at first.
Who'd been on his own journey.
Yeah.
It's like Billy Bush, hey, glass house as much? Do you not remember what happened to you 4 months ago?
But no, it's so true. But Billy was the host of Extra at the time, but he wasn't a part of this. So it was like, well, I got to tap into this too. This is the hottest story. And then Ben Shapiro started talking about it, and it turned into a whole thing. That's when I had to hire someone. So they were like, we're going to find stuff on you. You got him canceled. We're going to get you like you got him. I mean, I deactivated my Instagram after a while, and it was like every week. And Ben was like, look at her. She's privileged. She lives a privileged life. And I'm like, how did it turn into this? Off one question. I didn't say I didn't grow up privileged. I didn't say any of these. It just became every week. And then they announced he wasn't hosting the finale. So then that became a conversation. So it then triggered something else. Then it was, is he going to be hosting the next season? It was the next Bachelorette who said, I don't want him hosting my season. That's why they brought in 2 other people. That's how he ended up getting let go. And then after the Good Morning America, she said, I was like, I'm too emotionally attached to it. On my podcast, I would say, I'm emotionally attached to it. I'm not going to say whether or not he should keep his job. So it was such a crazy time.
That's fascinating. It's the way it became about you that was so because there was a version of it where you asked him the question and he gave a perfectly thoughtful and non-defensive answer, and maybe you would have followed up or moved on, but it was such a defensive and kind of surprising reaction. Like, of course you're hosting a show. Of course you're going to ask follow-up questions. It's your job. Like, it's interesting that I got turned on to you.
Well, yes and no. I expected him to give a PC answer. I was actually pissed that instead of Tyler, we got him, because I was like, he's not going to give me anything. And then look what happened with it. But it wasn't surprising because the audience has a love-hate relationship with me. Once I got off the show, I was very vocal about promoting diversity for the show. I could have easily been like, I'm the first lead, let's move on. But for me, it was like, no, this should be a pathway of more diversity with this show. Yeah, you might look at it as this silly little show, but there are millions of people who watch it, millions of people who, as that mother said to me, don't see themselves represented. So we need to make space for more people. So anytime someone would ask me who should be the next Bachelor, Bachelorette, I was only naming people of color. I just was like, that's what we should do. Different ages, different sizes, I was very much so promoting that. So people got sick of me, and people either loved me or hated me. If something went wrong with The Bachelor, I would speak out against it. I'd hold the franchise accountable. I was like, it's like a family member. The show gave me a lot. I love it. And because I love it, I'm going to hold it accountable when I feel like it's doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. And so the audience, very much so, it was okay when another Bachelorette did something. But if I did it, like I said, I'm not living a mediocre life. I'm living my best life. Oh, she's a bitch. She's a horrible person. Hannah Brown, I got love for Hannah Brown. She curses somebody out, then it's like, she is strong, she is woman, watch her roar. And that's the kind of it's like, it's fine if she does it because she looks a certain way. This isn't everybody by any means, but there was a group of the audience that my co-host loves to call the Bachelor clan with a K, that really don't give me any grace or any space or understanding. So it wasn't shocking when the audience, when people responded that way, because they think of the worst with me. Oh, she knew, she was trying to get him, not listening to his 15-minute rant. That's her fault. How dare she put him in that position? So it wasn't shocking.
And so that's higher learning with Van Lathan, that show you do.
Mm-hmm.
So you come out the other side of The Bachelor. You have opportunities with Extra, ESPN, and now you host this show.
Mm-hmm.
It helped give you this life
changed my
that
life.
you have. It was the path out of being a lawyer in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
You never went back to being a lawyer.
I did. I practiced for 2 years after.
When you were after the Bachelorette or after the Bachelorette?
After the Bachelorette. After the Bachelorette. I stopped practicing at the top of 2019.
But you were able to kind of leave behind the law and now be someone that hosts and is like a public figure. You're glad you did it. It was worth doing.
It was absolutely, everything was worth it. That's why I think it was so, I kept looking for no's. Everyone was giving me yeses. It was meant to be. It was the universe saying, this is the path that you're supposed to be on. I felt drawn to it in a way that I can't explain. But I've said this before, that I believe if you're given a platform, you should be purposeful about it. And so I always knew that as a first, and partly I could see that because my dad was a first in his career in what he was doing. First as a city attorney in Dallas, and then being a judge in the Northern District. He was the first Black. So I saw the struggle. I saw the highs and lows of it. And I saw that he was very intentional and grateful about the positions that he had and really used it to make a difference. And so, yes, even on a reality show, I felt like they'll listen to me in ways that maybe they won't a contestant, because a part of them did want to protect me because it was about protecting the brand. They wanted to make sure that I was happy. And so if I could pave the way for other people, to come on the show or apply for the show or, use the show to have a different path like I did, then great, fine. Now I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I love that I have, a microphone, a voice, a platform. I love that I've built a community. I think one of the scariest things when you leave The Bachelor is, does anybody care what I have to say outside of being The Bachelor? Because that's how everybody got to know me. And I'm happy that they do.
Before we let you go, we were talking about what we wanted to talk about with you as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And our producer, Kendra, had a question she thought I should ask. Okay. And I said, are you trying to get me destroyed on the internet? I can't ask that question. And so instead, we're now going to end with a segment we call Questions About Race. Our producer, Kendra, wanted me to ask, but I know my place, and the internet is forever. Kendra, please join us. And,
yes,
and I do want you to start with the question you I think earnestly thought I should ask.
Well, I feel like you've actually answered it kind of in a way with the discussion that you guys were just having. So I'm going to rephrase it slightly. I know you watch Bravo.
Yes.
You're a Bravo girly. For me, watching those shows, people like Vicki Gunvalson, like Ramona Singer, like Tamra, they are perfect as they are for reality television.
Yes.
And so when you have a show like OC or a show like Beverly Hills, and they're all white when they start, to me, that is the perfect way for them to be, because you cannot change those women.
Sure.
And changing those women would intrinsically destroy what makes them good television. And so my question for you is, are you for the integration of all white reality shows?
Oh, whoa. Okay. I think, so OC,
it went badly. It did not go well.
It went bad, but they also just I'm just not a fan of yeah. Okay, I won't still talk about that. That's a really good point. And I think sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The reason I guess I never looked at it that way is because they have Atlanta, they have Potomac, and I don't want, there's Kim Zolciak.
But that is an exception. I think it's an exception when a show does start somewhat integrated.
Right.
It's the bringing in when I start every time Vanita on Southern Charm is in a scene with Miss Pat, I'm clenched.
Yeah.
And I can't unclench until they are apart from each other. Or every time Ramona looks at a black person, I'm worried about what's about to come out of her mouth.
Okay, so and I do adore Vanita. I think it should be integrated. It's something about when you brought up Vanita and Southern Charm. With the housewives, I can accept it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I can accept Beverly Hills being white, even though it's not anymore.
Yeah.
I can accept that with OC because I actually think that represents exactly what those communities are. The South, I don't want to see Miss Pat going into her house with her
with the
slavery
gollywog
trinkets
tchotchkes.
I need it to break up. I don't want, and maybe because I'm from the South is very black, and I feel sorry for Vanita, and I've called out production on this multiple times, but I need to see black representation on that show.
I think that's totally fair. I think my issue comes with if I'm working here and Tamra refers to her husband, who is Mexican American, I've been rewatching OC. She calls him a slur at one point, or refers to him as a slur. And that's the man she loves. That's how she's talking about him on camera.
And he allows it.
And he allows it. And he probably has his own views. But if someone here does that, there's a barrier of then I go to HR. Mm-hmm. There's no barrier on a reality show to that degree. And so it just makes watching it, that's why I say I'm clenched, because for me, it then stresses me out worrying about what I'm about to see. I covered your season of The Bachelorette for Elle, and I was going through all of my recaps, and I had blocked out a lot of the Lee stuff. Like, I had completely forgotten it, and I think that was on purpose because covering that season was tough. Mm-hmm. It was really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And I think that might have been, that experience came back as I'm thinking about like watching Katie Janela try to navigate, or watching what happened to Garcelle on Beverly Hills.
Yeah. I think it works in some cities. It's like it's hard for me to answer. Like The Bachelor's different because you have contestants that look, even if there's only one, that you have different contestants. So it makes sense to have a lead. It works in some ways. It works, and a perfect example of that is New York.
Yep.
Right? They brought Ebony in, who it would have worked, but like we learned how racist Ramona is in watching that, and I actually appreciate that because I needed to see that. I don't know if I was really fully aware of it until that came out. So I guess if I'm giving a yes or a no, I do think yes, they should be integrated, not for entertainment purposes, just because we just need to see it.
That's right.
And I hate for the person who gets subjected to it. I've been through it, who has to go through it, and that's unfair. But as a fan of reality TV, I just need to see it. As much as I love Potomac and it being all black, if they brought in a white woman, I'd kind of be into it.
It would certainly be interesting as long as I don't have to look at Michael Darby again. That's
and there was Mike, but I miss him.
Really?
Away from Ashley.
Yeah.
But just for the entertainment purposes, which now I'm being hypocritical. But yeah, I think it needs to be integrated.
Have you and Karen Huger gotten to do fireball shots?
No, but I did see Karen Huger when I got out of the elevator at BravoCon, and I gave her a big hug.
Oh, I'm so happy for her.
She was one of the people on the list of people convicted.
Now, she did have 4 DUIs, and so it is tough for me to be asking about doing fireball shots, but that is kind of that's her thing.
That was her thing.
What do you think you haven't learned from the 3rd DUI?
That was the question.
They were all different, right? Like,
yeah,
they weren't full DUIs. It might have been like, they might have seen her in a parking lot with the car's off.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? It's still a problem. There's still a drinking problem.
Kind of fall asleep in the drive-through line kind of a situation, you know?
Yes.
I have just 2 more.
No, go for it.
I auditioned for The Bachelor. I did one of those like cattle call auditions, not for for funsies. I was writing an article about it. And my best friend and I went. My best friend is a 4'11" white woman. And they asked me flat out whether I'd ever kissed a white man. They asked me and then that escalated into whether or not I'd slept with a white man and which one of the former bachelors I was most likely to sleep with and why. And so I'm wondering what the most invasive question about race anyone ever asked you while you were filming.
Wait, can I ask you whose season that was?
I have no. It was a cattle call at Lincoln Center, the ABC studios at Lincoln Center, sometime in like 2014, 2015, 2016.
Okay, so it was before me.
Yes.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. They never asked me if I had a crazy interview. I didn't have an interview process. Like, I tried to leave the Dallas interview because it was taking too long and I need to go back to work. And I think that alone, they were like,
It's
let's
great to
skip
not
you
be
to the front of the line.
Not be bluffing. It's good.
Yeah.
Not too thirsty. It's like dating.
Yeah. I was like, here's my application. I took a picture and they were like, let's skip you to the front. So and I'm so forward. Like I said, when I got in front of the EPs, they said, who's your dream person? Who would your parents love to see you with? And I go, oh my God, that's so easy, Barack Obama. Like, that type. That's the standard. And I fail every time. Nothing close.
They did not get that like sweet and serious with us.
Nothing close. I really can't remember because I was so forward. Like, they were like, why do you want to be here? I was like, I don't know. I was like, the show's not for me. You don't have black people on here. I was so forward in that sense. They never asked me those questions. But I also think I was an asset that they were trying to protect. So they really handled me with kid gloves. I look at Jasmine, who was on the season with me. They didn't treat Jasmine like they treated me. And so I hate almost saying it that way because I was protected. They protected me.
My final question is, I've always wondered, did you and Kenny ever have a chance to talk after the show?
No.
About what had happened?
No. We didn't because, I picked Bryan. They were cool. And I tried to because the audience was so disliked. Like, did you like Bryan?
No.
Yeah,
really.
it's okay. It's okay. We can't stand him now.
I was a Peter person.
We can't stand
And a
him
Dean.
now.
I was a
Oh,
Dean
cannot
person.
stand him.
So was the audience
Dean
right? Was the
person.
audience right?
I underestimated how famous he wanted to be. It really comes down to that. And I don't know if I ever would have. Okay, I don't know if I've said this before. Definitely will say it in the book that I'm writing. But when I got off the show, he quit his job. Like, when we finished rapping in Spain, and I will come back to the Kenny question. We finished rapping in Spain, and we flew back, and there was like a week, maybe 10 days before the show was about to air. It was a really quick turnaround. I went back to work. I was working, and he was like, so I quit my job. And I boo-hooed. I'll never forget, I was getting ready for the Billboard Awards, and I was like, he wants to be famous. I said it. I was like, he wants to be famous. I don't want to do this. That was the last thing I wanted. I thought he was different. He had a career. He was older. All these things, right? He had more than me before we got married. And producer just kind of was like, well, maybe he wants to try a different path. And I just said, okay, I'm going to give him the space to do that. But I said it. And then it turns out his desire, he played the doting husband because he liked the attention that he got from that. I'm so supportive. She's a rock star. She's all these things. But he was secretly seething behind closed doors, jealous of the platform that I was building and that he didn't have that, and would blame me for the lack of success that he had. So, yeah. That's what I mean about there were certain things I saw. I just didn't see them like that in that way. How could I at that point? But, there are other things. Friends remind me. You said this.
Chiropractic, the red flag.
He got
Also-
mad at me for saying that. I said that to him. I was like, I'm not really a chiropractic person. I did a lot of personal injury stuff, and I would watch them run up the bills, and I would depose them, and it was awful. And so I was just kind of like, and he really got offended. He also got offended that I never would let him adjust me. It was like little things like that.
That's so funny. It's so funny to be engaged to a chiropractor and be like, please don't touch me.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I don't want you to crack my back. I don't believe
desperate. I was desperate for it if I did it. But I just was like,
Well, I was going to wrap. I want to let you finish the Kenny thought.
Oh, yeah,
Close the
Kenny.
loop.
Kenny said something to me during, I don't know why. I don't remember much from my men tell all, but he said something like, I'll see you next lifetime. And I just thought it was really sweet. Kenny is probably one of the few people I feel like if I had met in real life, we would have dated. But the circumstances of the show can either like make you or break you. And it broke him between being separated from his daughter and just Lee antagonizing him. And I've never said this, but like I really think that Kenny is probably somebody that I would have dated. But it just didn't work out. And so I haven't talked to him out of respect to Bryan. Some of the guys were at our wedding, but he wasn't. He wasn't one of the ones. But yeah, like he was one of the good ones.
Worth a text?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Okay. Bad idea. Bad
I'm
idea.
dating somebody.
Oh, you're dating somebody.
we didn't know that.
We don't know that. We don't know that. Okay, great.
I know. I
Congratulations.
don't really talk about it.
Well,
Thank
that's
you.
interesting. It's quite a switch.
I was like that before I did the show. I've always been private. I never really posted the guys. So I get why nobody has ever talked about who I dated in the past. There really aren't any pictures or anything out there because it's so rare that I do that.
And with that, Rachel, Lindsay, so good to talk to you.
Thank
what a great
you.
conversation. So appreciate your time.
Thank
and
you,
Kendra
guys.
James
Yeah.
for jumping in. I could not.
New segment on the show.
To be clear, could you imagine? I was like, "Hey, do you think that reality television should be integrated?" I'm not going to ask that fucking
Oh, it would
question.
have
Are
been
you
totally
crazy?
fine. I would have just talked about it on Higher Learning later.